All right, so I'm about to post up a video of basically something that I've already done a while back, but I've just been kind of busy. But it talks about a bunch of homes that are going to be built. Now, these homes have been planned for a while, but we're talking several hundred homes that are going to be built. And this city that's going to be built in is not a city that you typically hear about, but it is going to be probably one of the next boom towns in this area if this does happen. So that video is going to be going up um, relatively soon, right? What I wanted to talk about was someone had asked, because I did a video saying maybe we have already had this and I can't say because YouTube will get upset, but I had made the comment that we probably have had what's been going on for a while. And someone said, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know if you necessarily did? And wouldn't you be super, super sick? Well, let me tell you the reason why I think that we may have back in January, because one of the things that I may not have said in the video was I have allergies, right? All of us do. We all have pretty bad allergies, and it's something that is annoying. The weather here in Tacoma, in Washington, is, and like Seattle, back at that time was always cold, windy, wet, just your typical type of it, not a lot of snow, obviously, but you have a lot of you had a lot of days where even in January it would get kind of warm. When I say warm, I'm talking like 40s, which is not warm, but warmer than what you would think in the winter. We have a weird, because of where we are in the mountains and everything, weather patterns here are weird. We will have days where it's 50 degrees, 60 degrees, and then it goes back down to 30 this time of year because the weather's just strange. People were wearing shorts just the other day, mowing the grass, and now it's like it's winter again. So our weather is very, very crazy. But back, so allergies are bad. We've had trees that are budding, like one of the trees I had have been budding for a while because it was warm, even in December. It was kind of warm. Anyway, so in January, allergies are really bad as it is throughout this entire time of the winter months. And so we have huge bottles of allergy meds, and so we take them, all of us, except for sweets. We take them. When I didn't feel well, all of us were not feeling well at all. Okay, not at all. And one of the things that was common amongst all of us was headache, really bad headache. And I use Zoe as an example. Zoe is someone who does not get sick. Period. That kid doesn't get sick. And if she does, it takes a short amount of time and she's done. She doesn't get sick. And I guess because she's had such a strong immune system because of her eczema and stuff like that, and all of the she used to have a lot of open wounds that you could definitely see and skin issues. Now it's just on her hands, but it used to be everywhere on her arms, her legs, her feet, her hands, her neck, her mouth. It used to be really, really bad. And so I think that over time and she would even get little minor infections here and there. I think over time her immune system has just been boosted. So now, when she was in daycare a long time ago, she was hit with a lot of different illnesses. So I think out of anyone in the house, she has had such a she's been exposed to a lot of different things early on. So I think her immune system is just insane. So Zoe, on the other hand, was not feeling good. And even though I was having a headache, so this is kind of what was going on with me. I had a headache, and it would be kind of piercing. It wasn't something where I couldn't function. It just didn't feel good. I was tired. Didn't really have a whole lot of energy. None of that type of stuff. And it was a buildup. So I'm talking about the very early parts of this. I had a headache. And this was every single day. Some days were worse than others. And I was very, very tired. I had eye pain. Like, and not like the type of eye pain where you've been up for several days and you just haven't slept, that type of eye pain. No, it felt like um, I was hit in the eye, both eyes. There was just a pain, like the actual eyeball, both eyeballs hurt themselves. And when I say me, all of us felt the same thing because the kid, Noelle and I were talking. She's like saying that, she has this. And I'm like, I do too. And then we would hear the kids later say, oh, my eye, is hurting. So not just one, but all of them. All three were saying the same things at different times. And it wasn't like they were collaborating, because sometimes a kid will say, I have this, and the other one will say, I do too. So that was that. And then as time went on, it became where we had a little bit of the runny nose, a little bit, it was a lot of congestion. And so we're thinking allergies, probably really bad. We kept saying that. And then the headaches kind of just went away. And that led to coughing. So we thought again, allergies, the nose, all of that stuff's kind of connected. And the allergy pills, however, were not doing anything. We were taking the pills, nothing happened. I would take two, nothing would happen. It wouldn't diminish that at all. It got to the point where I later started to develop a headache again, and it felt like it was coming out of my ears. So we thought, well, the sinus issue, right? Because again, all of that's kind of connected. And so I was taking cold medicine, cold and flu medicine. Didn't do anything. Nothing. I mean, I would take Dayquil during the day. It kind of lowered things a little bit, but it didn't really do like a normal flu. Like a normal flu, I'd be good. For me personally, I would be totally fine. I could function over the course of a few hours. Then I would have to maybe do some more because, it just is kind of wearing out, that type of thing. This didn't do anything. And we were waiting for the medicine to kick in and nothing. It was like we didn't do anything, to the point where I almost forgot if I even took anything. I must also say I was disoriented. I didn't know, um, like, for example, like I couldn't focus. I told Noelle, like, I can't even um, explain certain things. Like she would ask me a question. I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's a simple question, but I was like, I don't know how to, I don't know. Like, I literally could not respond to certain things. And I noticed the kids were kind of similar. I don't count Sweets, but I would count Zoe. It was weird. You would ask her something, and she just was like, I don't know. And so then Noelle was the same way. It was kind of like you were just off, and it didn't last long. That was probably like a day where that took place. So we're talking several days of different things. And then I noticed that we all had gotten a little bit of a fever. Now, when I say I had gotten a fever, it never went over 100 to my understanding, unless it got there and I didn't check it. But it was always up a little bit. It was very low grade. And so it wasn't a big deal. And I started to develop coughs. My coughing was not super bad, but I started developing coughs, and it was worse, obviously, as it got towards nighttime. And, again, we're thinking probably cold or something like that. This was in January, so we're not thinking that it's that big of a deal. Hold on. So I remember saying that we're battling sickness, because sometimes I post that and people were saying, well, get well, get better. And our nurse friend said, gee, you guys are always sick. You were just sick like not that long ago. And it was true, because there was a lot of folks in this area that was going through some stuff and that was unrelated to this. And it was just a normal, common little cold that was going through. So not a big deal. And that responded to the things that we did. This, however, even if I took headache pills or, like pills for a headache or anything, nothing really seemed to it would dampen it a little bit, but it never resolved it. I'm the type of person where if I have a headache, I can take some medicine, and that headache, even though it's maybe a severe headache, it would dissipate. The only thing that wouldn't work for me is when I had a migraine, and it lowered it a little bit, but still, you knew you had a migraine. This didn't respond to that. It was just a persistent thing. Um, so then I noticed, for me, I don't have asthma. The only two people that have asthma is Noelle and Zoe. Noelle, as I mentioned, started to develop breathing issues, and so you could hear it. You could hear it. I guess the easiest way to say it is kind of like at nighttime, you could definitely hear when she was laying down and sleeping, you could definitely hear it to the point where it woke me up. Okay. During the nighttime, and I'm saying like towards around 8 o'clock or so, before bed, you could hear, she's like, "Can you hear me?" And she would just take a breath and you could just hear it. She takes a breath. You could just hear it, and it lasted and lasted and lasted. Um, for me, I knew that something was weird when I would go to sleep and I would just wake up. Now, for me, it's hard to go to sleep anyway. But when I'm asleep, unless there's something, a noise that wakes me up. But something would wake me up. And I noticed when I would wake up, I couldn't really get a lot of air. Like, it felt like, like, I don't know how to explain it, but for me, I would have to take a deep breath and hold it for a while just to feel like I satisfied myself, and then release, and still felt like, nope, you're not getting enough. So then I would keep doing that for probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And then I was kind of getting back to being okay. And I'm like, okay, just whatever. But that happened every single night, all the way up until now. Just the other day, same thing, where that would be the case. And just the other day, I felt like there was like like the middle of my chest, there was like a pain, right? And there was also, if you go back a few weeks, you can hear in my own lungs, you can hear that crackling sound. Now, when Noelle had that crackling sound back in January, I had a slight one, but it wasn't near what she had. And we all kind of complained of the same things, but medicine didn't really touch it. Then all of those things kind of just subsided. Noelle still had her breathing issues. I tried to get her to go to the doctor. She never did do it. And so I said, "You probably have pneumonia, walking pneumonia, because my sister has had that before. And the things you're talking about is the same thing she complained about." Now, my sister had walking pneumonia years ago. But I'm like, that's what it sounds like. You should go to the doctor. She never, ever did. Well, after a while, everything kind of went away. Then we started hearing about it in the news about this issue that's going on a little bit more. And so we were thinking, okay, we've probably already had this. So when people say, "How do you know?" Based on what we went through and what people are talking about, it seems very likely similar. Now, it may not be, but it sounds very, very, very similar. Now, today, for example, Noelle still had breathing, so her breathing issues got better. She didn't have that sound anymore until probably about a week and a half ago, right? It started to come back, that sound. And so then we have like a virtual clinic. So she went through and did that, told them the current symptoms that she had, and they sent her a prescription and basically saying this is what she has, which was, I forget, but something that was minor. And at that point, it was a bacterial type of thing. And so they gave her medicine for it. And so it's working to clear that part of it out. But the symptoms of what she had before are not the same symptoms of what she had a week ago. The only thing that's similar is the in the lungs. She would even say, "I can't even take a deep breath." This time around, it wasn't that she couldn't take a deep breath. It was just bothering her, and so she was scared. This is what she has. We think that we already all had it prior. I still do have sometimes issues of trying to get air. Now, not now. I can do whatever. But I had noticed that I could just move on the couch and I would be labored in my breathing as if I was just got off the exercise bike. So, do I think that we had it? Yeah, I do. Now, do I know 100% that we did? No, I don't know that because we haven't had the testing for it. Hopefully, we will be able to get the test at one point to see if we've actually, because they could tell if you've at least had it because your body has antibodies for it, right? And then I would be curious to know if we did indeed, had it and just didn't know. But everything in terms of the timeline seems to kind of make sense. And especially for all of us to have the same identical symptoms. Now, obviously, in a family cluster, you're going to have some of the same things, obviously, but these were not, I'm 42. Every year I catch a cold or a flu. And I had obviously the flu late last year. Uh, or similar to the flu, I should say. And this wasn't that. Not it, you could tell the difference. It was not that at all. For me, if I have the flu, there's like definitely some body aches and things like that, and your skin feels weird if you touch it. It's kind of like I don't know how to explain it, but you could take a shower and just the water hitting at your skin is like, ugh. That wasn't what was going on at all. It wasn't like that whatsoever. I didn't have high fever or nothing like that. I did feel kind of uncomfortable. And then the reason why I knew I had a fever and the reason why I checked it was because on the couch, because again, the weather here is kind of funky, it can be warm and cold. And so we have our heater on, the house heating system's on. So, I'd cover up and then I noticed I'm getting like hot. I'm like, man, I'm hot. I take the cover off and that kept happening. I'm like, well, that means I must have a fever. And I would ask people, are you guys cold? And they're like, no. Are you guys hot? No. So I would go and check, and then, yep, I had a little low grade type thing. And then everybody else was kind of doing something similar throughout the same time frame of where they were hot and cold. They would ask me, are you hot? No. Are you cold? No. So it was very, very weird. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's a possibility. Now, am I as scared as I was before? No, not. There was a time when I was very, very concerned. Still am, don't get me wrong, but not as bad as I was. And I think because, for one, we are relatively, and myself, relatively very healthy. I don't smoke, never have. Noel's never smoked. It's just not what we've ever done. We don't, to my knowledge, I don't have any sort of health issues. When I went and got the gallbladder removed, they checked for a lot of things. For my age, I don't have a whole lot of those. I'm not, obese or have diabetes or any of that type of stuff. So, relatively healthy. So, I think that probably obviously has helped in my favor. And I'm younger, so I think that's why it's not really, if we did have it, I think that could be why it wasn't that big of a deal. But there were other people in the area saying the exact same thing. And again, and these are people we don't know. Um, on Facebook, I was reading an article that was talking about this from the newspaper, and I mentioned this, that there were people saying, like, oh, we've already dealt with this because this came through not long ago. And they were mentioning some of the same things that we went through. So I don't think it's some sort of weird flu strain that people are complaining about. I don't think that's the case. Again, given the fact that we were the first state to state that we had it, and we are a big international city, yeah, I could see it happening, especially when we're talking about the time frame and that type of thing. You got to keep in mind too that January is when everybody's coming back for school, and I'm talking college students. So they're coming back because obviously school is going to be back in session. So it makes sense that something like that can happen. And again, we are a city that has a lot of, I say Seattle, has a lot of international students. A lot. We have a lot of students that are just in the country. UW Seattle is huge. And it has a huge presence when it comes to international stuff. It just does. I mean, even in terms of the medicine they're looking for now to combat this. I mean, it's one of the research teams is out of UW. So, I mean, it's a big, it's almost an Ivy League school, right? in terms of just where it's at. But yeah, to answer someone's question they ask, how do we know what were some of the things that we went through in more detail? That's kind of the case. That's kind of the reason why I feel that we may have. Again, we're not doctors. We don't know. We're not even nurses. We don't know until we actually eventually take a test and to be able to tell us that we have. As far as the studio goes, I mean, now we're basically, we can't do anything now. We've closed the studio now going on 2 weeks or so, at least. And we did that because we wanted to obviously protect people in this house, but we also didn't want people to congregate and be around. And at that point in time, even we're just talking 2 weeks ago, there was not a lot known. We're knowing more and more stuff every day, it seems. So we just did it out of making sure that we were good stewards to the community, period. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my whole point. Everything else will kind of come into place. We don't need the business in operation in order to make it, thankfully. But we also don't want to jeopardize people. We've gotten a lot of calls from people saying, "Are you open? Are you open? Are you open?" And it's like, no, we're not. We're going to wait till the end of March to make a determination. And then yesterday, our governor shut everything down, right? So, and that's good that they did. We'll evaluate after that period of time. I think it's a 2 week type deal. We'll see what happens at that particular point in time and work with what we're doing. Noelle and I have come up with strategies in terms of how to make sure that there's distancing. And we have a pretty large space now, so that's a lot easier to do. So I think that we will be pretty good to go. We've already kind of developed a plan and put that in place, that we will put in place when we do open back up again. But yeah, not overly concerned. We're not going to have the kids there. Typically, we would bring the kids in to the studio. We're going to keep them home, not have them at the studio for a while, just because kids touch everything. It also makes it a lot stressful, a lot more stressful when they're there anyway. But yeah, I think that probably if the governor's cool with it, we'll see what happens. We have to evaluate at that point in time. We're trying to figure out ways to make it a lot more safer overall for everyone. But we're not super concerned. And I also put a thing on our Facebook saying that, thankfully, we have a business where we can survive, right? We're not, we're not in a situation where some businesses have to completely shut down completely. Like they're not just for a period of time, like forever. So we don't have those huge cost overruns that a lot of businesses have. So we're able to do fairly well. We're not bringing anything in right now, but we are able to weather the storm for a while before we have to have any sort of concern. So I'm not really worried about that on that end. My thing is making sure that, hopefully we can get a handle of this and that it goes away or that we figure it out. I don't necessarily think that it is going to go away on our Discord, which you guys should join. I've kind of talked about that in more detail. And I can really talk about it in detail there versus here, because here they'll block everything. But, it's something that we have to deal with. It's unfortunate, but, we have to do our part and make sure that we keep people who are vulnerable safe. Anyhow, I'm going to stop rambling now, go in there, get some breakfast. It's early in the morning and I barely have had coffee. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, join our Discord. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.